Hi, my name's Shane. I use she and her pronouns. This is our seventh session of the Yellow King role-playing game. We're going to be moving into a setting called Aftermath today. Yellow King is by Robin D. Laws, published by Pelgrane Press. It's a gumshoe game. The session today was organised as part of the Gauntlet Gaming Calendar. If you're not familiar, the Gauntlet is an online community that discusses a whole lot of role-playing games with a focus on Indian story games. I've been playing on the Gauntlet for about a year, and this has been by far the most awkward, halting start to a session that I've managed yet. But through the magic of editing, none of you will know that if you're watching this later. I'll ask the players now to introduce themselves. Let's just go around the order that you're on my screen. So, Nick, do you want to go first?
Hi, I'm Nicholas. I have been playing on the Gauntlet for less than a year, and this year I am going to climb a frozen waterfall in the Cascades called, what was the name of that one? I'm totally blanking it, so it doesn't matter. I'll let the next person introduce themselves.
That sounds amazingly unpleasant to me, but also actually just amazing. That's cool. Puckett?
It's everything except unpleasant.
Puckett?
Hey there, I'm Puckett. I use he, him pronouns. Following in the wake of what Nicholas suggested, I have it on good authority that ice caves are really awesome if you're anywhere in the upper Midwest area. I believe they're around like Wisconsin, Michigan, etc. So, on the shore of a Great Lake, there's probably an ice cave somewhere, and you probably have to walk on the ice to get there. But it's supposed to be really amazing, and you can see pictures of it on the internet, but it's better in person, or so I hear.
So they say. Brandon?
Hi, I'm Brandon. I use he, him pronouns. One thing I've wanted to do in the great empty Midwest, which is for many years, is to see a tornado from a reasonable distance. To go on in the summer months in those places where tornadoes are reasonably likely to appear and have a chance of spotting one. It's been actually a childhood dream. I don't want to be caught in a tornado or anything god awful like that, but to see them, the most I've seen is a wall cloud, and that took my breath away. So I can only imagine what a tornado would be.
All right, an amazing round of introductions. Thank you, everyone. I want to just start out by telling you a little bit about the Aftermath setting that we're going to be playing in from today before you start making your characters. So feel free to jump in and stop me if you have any questions. This sequence is going to start out with your characters in New York City in 2021. Not the New York City familiar from our world, but in the same timeline as the war that you were just fighting in. So there has been an American empire, there has been a great European war, not either of our world wars. This is a timeline where Emperor Hildred Castaigne seized control of the US in the 20s and subsequently expanded his empire across a large part of the world. His regime and that of his children and heirs was viciously authoritarian. It very much held back scientific advances, so you won't have things like mobile phones and modern computers in our 2021 game. But now that empire has crumbled, and after a long struggle, the empire finally ended 6 months ago in a great battle at the Imperial Palace. You were part of that battle, and over several years leading up to it, you worked together as an insurgent cell, organizing and planning and preparing as part of this rising resistance movement throughout America and overseas. Like I say, 6 months ago, you took part in the final battle. You helped overthrow the Imperial dynasty. You saw things there you still cannot explain. You know that the Castaignes had allied themselves with a set of unnatural powers, but you don't know too much about the details of those things. So you've seen some weird things, but you don't really know what they were. So you haven't heard phrases like the King in Yellow or Carcosa yet. Maybe you've heard them, but you don't really know what they mean. Maybe they're aliens, maybe they're demons, ghosts, rumors, who knows. So as we start, the provisional government based in New York is preparing for the first free elections in generations. And you are effectively counter-terrorism agents who are trying to make sure that that process goes ahead, because there are still loyal Castaignites who would like to subvert that process and throw you back into tyranny. In terms of tone, the tone I want to aim for in this sequence is a bit more of a kind of high action thriller situation, like Mission Impossible or the Bourne movies, obviously with some supernatural elements, but not so much full on horror as the last couple of sessions that we've been in. I think that's kind of the broad high level overview for the setting. Any questions about that? I mean, obviously, as questions come up, you can also ask them later. Also, just like to take a second, because we're shifting to a new setting, to get you to revisit our lines and veils. Just think about whether there's anything that you see potentially coming up in that setting that you'd like to add to what we already have, or just reacquaint yourself with what's already there. And I'll get you to put an OK in the chat when you're happy with that.
This is around the 1950s?
No, it's the present.
Okay, the present. Okay, got it.
Not our present, but a present. So
An alternate
2021.
present.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
And in addition to our lines and veils, as you know, we're also using the X card and the open door as safety tools. If you need to use either of those, it's strongly encouraged and welcome. So we'll make some characters. So the tab that you're going to that we're going to use for the Keeper now is the Aftermath tab. You'll see that again, you've been assigned an investigative kit that gives you a set of investigative abilities. That's going to be consistent whenever we change settings because of the way the game works. But again, because we have less than the full roster of 7 characters for the game, I'll get you each to pick out just a couple of extra abilities from the character options tab. So if you go to character options, starting in cell B40 in the red grid, you'll see the investigative ability for this part of the game. And the ones in bold are the ones that are already taken. So I will just go again, like in the order that I can see on my screen, I think, and ask each of you to pick out one of those abilities, and we'll go through the whole, the whole of the 3 of you twice to pick out some extras. So, Nicholas, do you want to start? Any of those leap out to you?
Yeah, I'll take forensic anthropology.
Great. And Pocket?
Should we figure out what classes we're taking first?
You mean in terms of like general abilities?
Yeah. So we know what we already have?
Oh, so you are already assigned an investigative kit, which is kind of like a class.
Oh, okay.
So that's just something that happens in the game as you move from setting to setting based on...
Okay, so we're already assigned the investigative kit. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're a field agent, for example. And the investigative kits kind of refer to what your roles were in the Insurgency.
Okay.
Or the good Insurgency, not the current bad Insurgency.
If I'm a field agent, I think it makes sense that I'd know something about interrogation.
Sure. All right. And Brandon, do you want to pick 2 and then we'll go back the other way?
Sure. I'll, excuse me. I'll pick counterinsurgency.
Cool.
And Let's see. Undercover agent. I'll take reassurance.
Great. Paco, do you want to pick one more?
Let's see. Would medicine allow me to treat somebody who's injured? Or is
So
that
none
just
of the that's just
right.
a first
This is
aid
just
general ability.
yeah, this is approaches to
To finding clues.
occultism.
Great. I was wondering if anyone would pick that up. And Nicholas, one last investigative ability.
Technology.
Cool. All right. So if we go back to the Aftermath tab, so in the previous settings, you got a general kit that assigned values to your general abilities. The game at this point assumes that you kind of understand how things work well enough that you can you're just going to fill those in from a pool. So the details of this, if you hover over the red cell in line 16 that says general abilities, it will give you some details. But basically, each of you has 46 points to allocate to these abilities. Nothing can go above 10. Things can be as low as 0. The game recommends at least 6 to 10 points each in composure and fighting. And if you want some information about what the abilities actually do, there's a PDF in the drive folder called Aftermath Abilities that will tell you about the newer ones.
Nicholas, are you actually trying to get a point in everything?
No, I'm not. I've got 2 zeros.
So not only no cell phones, but no computers.
So there would be like sort of what we would consider primitive computers.
Oh, okay.
Punch card readers, things like that. But no internet, or only a very early version of the internet, things like that.
Oh, okay. So you're modifying that.
So there actually would be something like an internet or connected network.
Sorry. I imagine there's probably some early rudimentary version of that.
So is this like the first iteration of DARPANET or something like that?
Yeah, I think that's probably right.
Okay.
Or maybe there was.
So we're talking like computers the size of a warehouse that can basically run simple calculations, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
I think
I
that's
had to
right.
look up network to make sure that it wasn't like, oh, computer hacking skill, perfect.
Right.
No, it's a personal network.
Yeah.
So yes, computers that read or work on stacks of punched cards.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do not drop the stack.
My first computer experience was with marked cards.
Oh, nice.
Oh.
It was on a Hewlett-Packard 2000 series computer, something the size of a small washer and dryer that had 8K of random access memory. A number so small you can't find it in a smartphone.
Right.
Typical smartphone only has, let me get this right, only has about 16 million times as much memory as that machine.
I mean, we literally walk around with computers in our pocket that are about 20 to 100 times as powerful as the computers used to put people on the actual moon. So, do you know what we do with it? We find coupons and we yell at strangers.
Cat memes.
Okay, now that's the one good thing we do with it.
Yes, the future delivered on pocket computers. The bubble cars were, alas, a grave disappointment.
Okay, given how people drive, do you really want people with flying cars?
Well, it's three-dimensional space. There's a lot more room to miss.
Plus, the real bubble car doesn't have a steering wheel. You just say, take me to Las Vegas, and it takes you to Las Vegas.
That's true. That's the best.
Okay.
The Jetsons ones had little joystick kind of thing.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Do you really want to trust automated cars? Because at this point, I trust neither drivers nor AI-controlled cars. I mean, drivers in a flying car, that's an unguided flying missile. you know.
I look forward to the day that I can just turn my driver's seat around and chat with the people in the vehicle with me.
You're an extrovert, aren't you?
No, I'm not.
Can you refresh my memory? If we don't have a point in a skill, we can't use that skill, correct?
You can still roll it. It's just going to be rolling a flat d6.
Okay.
We made several rolls last time with no no remaining points in the skill.
Oh, I wasn't talking about remaining points. I meant 0 points at all, no points at all. So,
Yeah.
I think
even
I'm
with
actually good.
Cool.
But yeah, you were saying even with
even with a rating of 0, you're still you can still roll. So how, Nicholas, you're done. How are Brandon and Puckett going?
Yes, I'm
I
done.
think I'm good.
All right. So then we get to the more sort of narrative parts of character creation for this setting. That's drive, parallel, and worst memory. So this is going to be relatively familiar from earlier sessions. So your drive, again, is like what quality motivates you to investigate terrible things. You'll see that for this, duty is already filled in as a drive for all of you, just for all characters in this setting. But you're asked to also create a second, more sort of personal duty. Just a short phrase or sentence that describes, or word describes what motivates you. You also choose a parallel. So the parallel is something that connects you to to a character from the wars setting. And the reason this comes about is that when you were fighting as part of the rebellion, you read a book written by Alphonse from the Wars series about his experiences. So you're broadly familiar with what happened to the characters in the wars, including after our session ended. Alphonse may or may not have been clear about all of the details. You may or may not believe all of the things that he said, but you've read what he wrote, and you found some sort of parallel between yourself and one of those characters. So just to briefly describe that. And then the third thing is your worst memory. So that's the worst thing that you saw or did or had done to you during the rebellion. It was a pretty terrible conflict. So just bearing in mind the lines and veils, the worst thing that happened to you.
I think my audio was cutting in and out when you were describing the current setting. Are we military, civilian, law enforcement?
Yeah, so you're going to be kind of like spies or agents of some kind of the provisional government.
So kind of James Bond-ish, or yeah. Okay.
All right. So if everyone's ready, we'll do a quick round of character introductions. Nicholas, do you want to go first? I shouldn't have picked the person who hasn't got a name yet.
Yeah, so I am playing Johnny, who does not have a last name yet, but we'll figure that out shortly. Johnny is a code breaker. That is actually a defining attribute. I imagine he also goes out into do more active things, but his career is in code breaking. A kind of sneaky guy, and the worst memory that he has is his childhood neighbor got married. They kept in contact, and her husband became a good friend of the family. And he was actually killed in a mission in South America due to some of my communications being intercepted and decoding by enemy agents. And looking at the case files, the remains were horrifically displayed and dismembered.
Yeah, It's brutal. How old's Johnny?
27.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. Puckett, do you want to go next?
Of course, I'd be happy to. So I'll be playing Marie Mayhem Lancaster. She got that nickname. She earned it, quite frankly. When she was young, she read smuggled accounts of missions that Jack Hardesty had been on. And as she grew older, she started training with people who had been trained by Jack, and they would gradually tell her more and more stories. And she gained an appreciation for what he had done and the will that he had and the things that he did, even if they ranged from unpleasant to downright loathsome and vicious. And she kind of modeled her insurgency service, if you will, after his actions. That's how she got the name. What else would you like to know?
Do you want to tell us about your worst memory? We heard a little about it before.
Yeah, well, a patrol of loyalists had captured her and the surviving members of her unit, made them dig a trench and lined them up alongside it, and were shooting them one by one. She was next until a random patrol came by, gunned them down, and she survived. One of 3 people to do so.
Thanks. That sounds awesome. Sorry, not your worst memory. The character. I particularly love your choice of picture. And Brandon.
My character is Marissa Taylor, who was an undercover agent during the war. I felt a strange kinship reading about with Dakota Sterling. For one thing, neither she nor I ever expected to become a soldier. We both had dreams of better things that the atrocities of current circumstances wrenched away from us. Second, some of the photographs that survive that she took are astonishing, frightening, moving, unnerving, more things than that. My worst memory is when I learned that my family had been arrested to be interrogated, presumably, and put to death. At least I never saw them again. I could do nothing to help them, having avoided the trap by the merest whisper of an errand that I had to do that I had put off from the week before that had to be done, and so I was not at home when the police came. Now, my husband and I had 2 young children.
Right.
So that is in fact what precipitated my joining the insurgency. The worst memory is then the beginning of my trajectory.
Fair enough. You mentioned that Marissa had dreams of better things. What was it that Marissa wanted to do with her life?
I wanted to have a normal life. I wanted to raise our children. I mean, there were things during the dictatorship which were terrible, but you could, if they didn't affect you personally, you could ignore them. You could pretend, you could believe the news reports that that these people were traitors and were trying to bring down our system, and I didn't have a great belief in the government, but I was in love, and I wanted to have a husband and a family, and to watch them grow from day to day, and then learn about the world, and perhaps have a better world for them than it was for me, in a way. And it all vanished in an afternoon.
All right, fair enough. I love these characters. It's very exciting. Normally, I like to take a break just on the top of the hour, but we started about 15 minutes late today, so I might push the breaks back to about 1:15. Is that good for everyone? Because we just have one last thing to do by way of setup, and then we can take a break and come back with the game. So the last thing is to define the goal that your group shares. So some sort of political agenda, something worth fighting for, something that you hope to see from the emerging democracy. So if you have a look in the Drive folder, there's a PDF called Aftermath Goals, and starting at the bottom of that page, there are kind of cards that describe a set of goals that you might have. I just flag that a couple of them are about government lethal chambers. So we have a veil on suicide. There's some references to suicide in those if you want to skip over them. But yeah, have a look through those and just think about what the group might be fighting for. And tell us what you think would be cool.
I do kind of like the shut down government lethal chambers. I think that sounds like a worthy cause.
Sorry, I don't see where this is. Could you say again?
So
That's right at the top.
in the Drive folder, there's a PDF called Aftermath Goals.
Thank you, Brain.
Right.
I'm drawn to war crimes trials. Do we have to settle on one, or can we pick more than one?
I mean,
If
the group
they
can be
dovetail.
working on multiple agendas that fit together. Again, this is the more sort of fictional positioning. So
Okay.
as long as we have a sense of what the group's priorities are, then yeah, it can definitely incorporate several of them, I guess.
Because I can absolutely see framing the onset of these government lethal chambers as, like, just even the implementation of them as a war crime.
I'm for war crimes trials too.
I could definitely get behind the. Yeah, I can get behind the war crime trials. That sounds fun too.
Yeah, it's wow. Though Truth and Reconciliation,
I don't know that I even read.
speaks strongly too. Actually, these are on the same spectrum.
Well, can I suggest that what the group agrees on, perhaps, is that it's a priority to understand what's happened and to bring the guilty to justice, but maybe there's tensions among you about the best form for that, whether it is about trials, whether it is about something more like a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And yeah, with at least some focus on the lethal chambers as a particular crime against
I
humanity.
actually do want to pivot fully into the war crime trials.
So I'll basically take the Truth and Reconciliation part of that. And we're all agreed on that the most important thing is the disposition of those who helped the Castaignes,
Right.
who are still out there. That they must either come forth and admit what they have done, or be sanctioned.
Yeah, and I do feel like those are two sides of the same coin. I think as a double agenda, those two work really well together.
That makes sense to me. Pocket, how does that sound to you?
Oh, I'm fine with that. I mean, if you want to frame it as something like they can come forward and admit what they did in open court and, maybe try to get some measure of forgiveness that way or some measure of mercy. And the flip side of it is me. Yep. I'm good with that.
All right. That sounds great. So that's everything that we need to do by way of setup. Is there any questions about anything to do with the characters or the setting before we take a quick break?
Nope.
All right. Well, let's take 10 minutes and we'll come back and jump right into the action. So you'll notice that I have a red light on me now, so it's a little bit atmospheric, but also means that I can see. Let's see. Is everyone ready to go? So we're going to start with you under fire from some Castaigne rebels. You are on the 30th floor of a skyscraper. You came here to meet an old contact, an old friend from the pre-overthrow times, Vigo Rex. He'd sent you a coded message indicating that he had intelligence about a terrorist threat, and you came to the meeting place high up in what was previously called the Castaigne building, now known as the Freedom building. But you found him dead, already dead when you got here. And before you had a chance to, investigate or try and figure out what had happened, a group of black-clad figures burst into the room, needler guns raised at you, already unleashing their riot dog, which is a kind of unnaturally engineered canine, huge, fast, and poisonous. So you're under attack and you're going to have to fight back one way or another. So the first step in our combat is for you to define a goal. Do you want to kill these guys? Do you want to escape? Is there something else that you'd like to do? I can tell you that the difficulty to kill them is 3. The difficulty to kill them is 6. The difficulty to escape is 3, and other goals will fall somewhere in the middle.
What's the difficulty to turn their dog against them?
I guess that would be just kill. That's just another way of killing them. So it's going to be a 6 anyway.
Can I use my occult knowledge to do something to the dog to swing it to our side?
I think maybe if you had time to prepare, but you've just come under this very sudden attack, so I don't think that you're going to be able to do that. You can narrate that is what happens as part of your turn in the combat, but by itself, it's not going to resolve the situation.
So, do we just want to escape, or do we want to try to get some intel from these people who are attacking us? Do you think?
I'd be just for skipping.
Yeah, I'm in on the get out of here bandwagon.
All right. Okay. So your difficulty to escape is 3. Okay. So you decide how many points of fighting you're going to put into this, and then tell me how much each of you wants to spend on your fighting test. Again, trying to beat a difficulty of 3.
And what is our method of escape? Are we climbing through heat ducts, or?
I think we're just getting out another door while we hold them off.
Okay, just running circles, heading to a stairwell, and trying to just circumnavigate.
I think so. We didn't come prepared for real wet work in all likelihood.
All right. So the plan is to just sort of push your way past them, avoid getting shot if possible, or bitten, and then rush to try and get to the stairs so you can get to the ground floor.
Yeah, they're heading up the elevator. We want to take the stairs.
All right. Yeah. So just tell me, each of you, how many points of fighting you want to spend. Nicholas?
I'll put 1 point in.
All right. Mayhem?
Oh, forgive me because I'm a little spacey at this exact second. But wasn't there a way to do like a collaborative action?
So not for combat. Like if it was a
Okay.
regular test, you can.
Okay. You know, what the hell? I'll just put one in and roll. Just
All
to
right.
just
And
have a little bit of fun.
nice. And Marissa?
Just one,
Oh,
and I got a 4.
Living dangerously here.
all right. Hang on. So Marissa with a spend of 1 and a roll of 4, so it's a margin of 1. Johnny, can I get you to roll your test?
Yeah, I'm looking for the link to the roller.
It should be in the chat, I think.
Uh-huh.
I think I posted it before. If you just scroll back up to the top.
Oh. Three total.
It's a 0.
Yeah.
All right.
Good thing I spent that point.
Good thing you spent that point. And Mayhem, just a 1d6 plus 1. And you just need to roll what? You're going to struggle to fail this, I think. Ooh.
We got exactly a 0.
You did? That's right. And I believe that's a success.
I hope so.
All right. So, sorry, I should have gotten you to narrate a little bit more. Where are we? Okay. So I'll just go back and ask you each to describe a little bit about what you did in the fight. So Marissa, what was your contribution?
I kick a filing cabinet over, and it cracks open, papers go flying, and the dog slips on a bunch of papers and loses its balance for a few seconds, and gives us a chance to get a jump on.
Nice. So here you would normally pay the foe's toll, but their toll is 0, so that's fine. Johnny, narrate a little bit about your success in the fight.
Yeah, so it looked like I was just the flightiest of the party. I got to the stairwell first, but that's when things got a little bit more difficult. The door was locked. I happened to have my lock pick set on me, and so I was able to pick the lock while Marissa distracted the dog with the file cabinet.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And then Mayhem, you they tag you on your way out.
No doubt.
One of them catches you with the needler gun, which fires tiny hypodermics. So you're going to take the minor injury card, grazed by a needler. If you want to track that down in the folder.
Alrighty. Grazed by a needler.
And of course, you should all remove the cards that you'd picked up in the war setting because they no longer apply.
And how do I put this in the character cube?
Listed under injury down at the bottom of your character, or a shock, as the case may be.
So this is an injury card. I don't know what the best way is to paste it in.
Yeah, I just used a snipping tool that's built into Windows and just did a little screen scrape of that section of the PDF.
I just typed in the title of the cards down there and looked them up when I had to.
That works as well if you just want to jot down some details so you know how it works.
All right. Fun.
I grab hold of Mayhem and make sure she makes it to the stairs.
Yeah, so you can narrate. So then you've overall scored a victory of 0. So you can describe how you get away.
Oh. Which the lever on the stairs with the fire extinguisher. It's in the stairwell and bolt.
All right.
It's my vote.
So
Yep.
you can.
Down into a parking lot where we parked our vehicle underneath this building, I'm thinking.
Yeah, so you can hear them like chasing after you all the way into the stairwell. Somebody is radioing saying that there's, man down on the 30th floor, that they chasing hostiles. They're clearly radioing to allies who are in the area. Who's driving?
I think Johnny would jump into the driver's seat.
You're first in. You're first down. You could be first in.
Yeah.
All right, and you're going to head back to HQ?
Yeah.
All right. So as you come out into the street, you see an unmarked black van come rushing towards you, clearly with hostile intent, as several similarly dressed insurgents lean out the windows and start firing on your car.
Down.
You need to make a driving test to get away here. I think just a difficulty 4. They're just like regular type insurgents.
I'll put 2 points into that.
Nice.
Oh, thank goodness.
All right.
I think we trade a little paint with them.
Yeah. Do you want to describe the getaway?
Yeah. So I think they pull up side by side, and I'm able to jam my vehicle against their vehicle until I get theirs scraping up against buildings and they fall way back. And that's when I'm able to duck into an alleyway, squeeze between some miscellaneous alleyway items through a section that's too narrow for their larger van.
All right. So you get back to HQ safely. You have a chance to recover from the near miss. And before too long, a guy named Ryan Cruz comes to talk to you about what's next. So he's, I guess there is some sort of command structure in the provisional government, and he's the guy that you report to and who gives you your assignments and things like that. And you can tell from his expression that he is worried about something. So he takes you into a conference room, sits you down, and he says, so Vigo had been killed when you got there?
Yes.
Damn it.
We didn't even have time to ascertain how he'd been killed. It was clearly they clearly killed him and then set him up as a trap for us.
Vigo had been investigating some code-worded phenomena. When I say code-worded phenomena, it's not about your security clearance. I trust you all. I'm not sure how much you know about this, but the Castaigne regime drew on certain unnatural powers. These powers, these phenomena can be infectious, can be mimetic. Individuals who learn about these phenomena, just the knowledge of them can be infectious, can cause people to become dangerously deranged and violent. Vigo was investigating certain of these code word phenomena. In particular, he was looking for a mirror, or he believed that some of the Castaignite rebels were looking for a mirror. The mirror was associated with one of the first productions of the codename phenomena, a play that was first performed in Paris in the 1890s. The author of this play claimed that he had transcribed it based on voices that spoke to him through this mirror. Now, I know that sounds ridiculous, but there have been a significant history of unnatural outbreaks associated with these phenomena for over 100 years, and this is something that we need to take seriously. If the Castaignites get their hands on this mirror, it could be extraordinarily dangerous.
Even still.
I'm going to need your team to find this mirror before they do. If possible, to destroy it. And
Do you want us to even attempt to recover it, or just destroy it on site?
if you're able to destroy it, then that's the ideal outcome. It's an object of extraordinary power, but a power that corrupts, a power that cannot be used, that we don't want to use, that we don't want anywhere, that we don't want anyone to be able to get their hands on. Not them, not any future government of this country. I cannot overstate how dangerous this is.
Ryan, come on. Everything explodes.
The mirror will not explode. I am not able to tell you what the mirror does. I'm not able to tell you because I don't know. We have to maintain strict protocols to ensure that knowledge of these phenomena does not pass from individual to individual. The agents who discovered this information are currently quarantined. I do not know the details of what they discovered or how, and that is how I'm able to present this information to you without a risk of further contagion.
What do we know about the mirror's location at this time?
We have reason to believe that it's in New York City. We have a lead. We have two leads, arguably. And he puts a photo up on the monitor, and it's kind of blurry. It's hard to make out the face. But I think that, it sounds like Mayhem is the most dedicated to hunting down the great criminals of the Castaigne regime, and certainly she'll recognize who this is. But he explains as well. This man is Gene Wild, responsible for some of the most devastating terrorist attacks both before and after the collapse of the Castaigne regime. You all know that name. You know the casualties and atrocities that he's linked to. We have a confirmed sighting of Wild in New York. He knows that he's wanted here. He wouldn't expose himself like this unless he was involved in something big, and we believe that this connects to the mirror. A series of photos now appears on the screen. You don't recognize this guy, unremarkably dressed. And Ryan explains, our link to Wild is this man, Bo Jordan. He runs a second-hand bookshop in the East Village, but before the overthrow, he was a high-ranking regime official. We've had him under surveillance for weeks now. We believe that the bookshop is being used in some way as an information exchange by the rebels. And our surveillance photo of Wild was taken as he entered the bookshop 3 days ago. Jordan is nothing to us. Do what you need with Jordan. But we must find Wild. He is our only credible link to the mirror. And if we don't find the mirror soon, the risks are incredibly grave. Do you have any questions?
Can I get somebody to patch up my arm before we go kick some ass?
I guess you can. What is the discard condition on the card?
I need a first aid treatment with difficulty 4 success.
Sure. Does anyone want to try the first aid test?
I was asking Ryan, but yeah.
Certainly.
So the difficulty, I think, will be reduced by 1 because you're at HQ. There's facilities and things.
I'll spend 1 then. I should put my die fell off.
Mm-hmm.
6.
There you go. All right.
So
Feeling much better.
I want to pull Ryan aside as we leave the room. Say, Ryan, agents in quarantine doesn't sound particularly good.
Nothing about this is good, Murray.
Yeah, my point is, I'm assuming that we're going to have to undergo similar quarantine.
The look on his face tells you that he believes that is an optimistic assessment. He looks back at you and says, Marie, the dangers that your team will face in dealing with these phenomena are extremely serious. But yeah, if you make it back, you will have to be quarantined. That's true.
I love your optimism, Ryan. It's one of my favorite qualities about you. I love how you say, if we make it back. Like there's a possibility. And I kind of smile at him, clap him on the shoulder, and say, you've got a really shitty job. I would not want to be you.
He takes that. He nods. Do the three of you want to do some planning?
The second we get someplace alone, I'm going to relay this information to the other members of the team.
Are you surprised?
No, but I wanted to make sure we all knew what we were walking into. So
I've never seen any of the coded phenomena, but I have seen a victim of them. It was a contact that I had back about a year ago, who over a course of time lost his mind, and I didn't find out why until afterwards. But to see this intelligent, diligent, competent man disintegrate was sobering.
I'm just saying that when we get close to whatever this thing is, I'll just be blunt. I'll draw straws. Hell, I'll go in. I'll try to take care of this thing. But we should know going in that anyone who enters the room with that thing may not be coming out. And if you do, who knows how you'll be coming out or what your life will be like after.
How many of us didn't expect to make it this far?
Oh, all of us for sure.
I'm astonished that I'm still alive, really, given that I was given the fact that I was deep insertion into the Castaigne government. I'm just glad I never learned anything of what they were really doing in certain regards.
I'm just saying that if you have something like a life, I'd like to try to help you keep it, or whatever you have of it. Because this doesn't sound like it sounds like the deeper into this thing we get, the less likely it is that we're going to come out in any kind of shape that we want to come out in. At some point,
True
that
enough.
is better.
True enough. But what it really means, I guess, is that our war isn't over. Which is too bad. But we know what we have to do.
I always did like browsing in bookstores in New York.
Yes, Greenwich Village is lovely. I remember being there once with Paul. But that was a long time ago.
So we kick the door down on this guy, put the boots to him, make him answer some questions.
That's an interesting question. Alternatively, we can try to see who he meets, and I can try to get close to someone.
I mean, I was thinking we could sneak in under the cover. Oh, go ahead.
No, please.
I was thinking we could sneak in under the cover of night and ransack the joint, see what we can learn through documents and whatnot.
They're all good approaches, but as soon as we toss the place or grab Mr. Jordan, if we don't get what we want, we have lost our connection to Wild. And
so after we tail people,
I think interrogating Mr. Jordan or tossing his shop has to be the last thing we do, or something we do if we are running out of time and need a bold move, because we won't have a second chance if it fails.
And do you think we get a second chance if you start getting close to them?
Certainly
If they find me and kill me, and they don't think they've been discovered, then yes.
Okay, we can try it that way.
Jordan Wild. Jordan may or may not be persuaded to talk, but there is someone in his circle who can be. And if I can find a target that can be disappeared without setting Wild's alarms off, then perhaps we may have it both ways. What do you think, Marie?
I think we only go loud if we have to. So if you can get close and get the information and we can stay quiet, that's a better option. Failing that, we kick in the door. Johnny, you ransack the joint. I'll put the boots to him. Tie him up, toss a Molotov in, and be done.
Yeah. I mean, we don't even know if the mirror is where it is. So I like the quiet approach. until we know where it is.
All right. Well, let me. Well, I think I have a need to look for some books.
Marissa, it sounded like you were also considering trying to track down a contact of the bookshop owner who you might be able to flip or interrogate. For a counterinsurgency spend, you can know someone who would make use of the bookshop as an information exchange, who you could shake down a little.
Yes, although I'm going to try to hope to not to shake them down directly, but
Okay.
to ply them. I'm good at getting people to get to. I'm good at interrogating people without getting them to realize they've been interrogated.
Okay.
Or at least so I assume from people, person, and flattery, and such like that.
Okay.
So I'm going to find someone, and I'm going to see if I can take them out or get them to take me out for drinks.
Okay. So I think like a small-time drug dealer who you think is connected to the insurgency. Her name's Yelena Durham. Do you want to tell us a bit about your relationship with her? Like, is she someone who you can invite out for a drink? Maybe she's an informant that you've used before, or are you going to have to finagle your way in a little more?
I think I have quite a bit on her.
Okay.
We have, and I have suggested to her that that assistance that she gives will be remembered when the war crimes tribunals start up.
Cool.
And she will be given the option to plead.
Okay, that works.
And to be protected from from any diehard holdouts who are.
Speaking of diehard holdouts, what's Marie going to be doing while you meet with Yelena?
Where are you meeting her?
I'm meeting her. I'm meeting her in a East Village bar called The Star. Was a patriotic hangout.
I probably wander in and just sit there nursing a beer, trying to look like a regular.
Okay. And what about Johnny? Are you also going to stake out the bar a little bit, or is there something else that you'd like to do?
I imagine the bar isn't across the street from the bookshop, but books and coffee go really nice together. So I'd like to think that I can start just observing traffic flow and watch the bookshop from across the street at a nice cafe.
Okay. So I think this is a good moment to introduce or to tell you about a mechanic or a general ability that you can use in this game called Insurgency. So one of the things you can use Insurgency for is to case out a target, a location. You make a test like normal, and let me get this up so I can tell you the right details. Difficulty is 4 for most civilian targets, 5 for a secure military target, or 6 for an ultra secure installation. On a success with a margin of 2 or less, all combatants on your side get a +1 fighting bonus in that location, or a higher margin nets a +2 bonus. So that's something that you might want to think about if you're casing it out a bit. All right. So Marissa, you meet Yelena. She acts casual, but there's a kind of nervous quality underlying it. She looks at you and she says, "Well, what do you want?"
I want to have a nice chat and a drink or two, reminisce about old times, and future possibilities.
You buying?
Of course.
All right.
Are you? Is she using? I asked the GM.
She doesn't. No, you don't think so.
Okay.
She sells drugs. She doesn't use them.
Yeah. Well, that was true. I just wanted to make sure that it still was.
Sure. But she will definitely have a whiskey if you're going to buy drinks.
Mm-hmm. I'll buy her more than one.
Mhm.
I wanted to get all those nerves off her.
Mm-hmm.
I'll ask her how business is going. The change in government has made things any more or less difficult for her, or her clientele. People have gained and lost jobs. That's got to have some effect on the bottom line.
You might think that, but demand for my product doesn't change much. Governments come and go. People still need what I have. The governments don't mean much to me. You, on the other hand, meeting with you is something that's going to affect demand for my product. If people find out,
Why should
you
they find
understand the
out?
risk that I'm taking.
Yes, and I understand the risk you would be taking to not meet with me too.
Okay. I hear you.
As as long as you're you're a good citizen, we've got no reason to trouble you from a business standpoint.
That's right. No reason. So, what is it you want?
I want. There is someone that we have an eye on. He's he's a small fish, but he knows a thing or two that we would like to ask him.
Yeah, I know how that goes.
No, you don't yet, and hopefully you never will.
She takes a bigger gulp of her drink at that.
I put my hand gently on hers, and I go, "You have nothing to worry about with me, unless you lie to me. Do you understand that? In fact, we will go out of our way to protect you if you provide us with useful information. That's the way it's always worked. That's the way it works now.
So
We're not. I'm not trying to frighten you, but you know how things are.
So I just want to ask here, Marie, you're across the bar. Like, what's your demeanor? Will she notice you, or are you just trying to blend in?
Well, I don't think I am trying to blend in. I think I do. I mean, this is a patriotic bar, probably a lot of soldiers. I'm, wearing some old fatigues, looking for all the world like I just came in, just sitting there, watching what's going on in the mirror behind the bar, keeping an eye on it. Not turning around, not looking like I'm listening, but watching.
All right. Cool.
But if Marissa signals, my appearance will change.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the signal is my tucking a lock of hair back behind my right ear. That means problem.
All right.
So here's after we have another drink, I say, It's a fellow who sells books in the village. His name is Beau Jordan. I would like to have a productive discussion with him. However, we have reason to believe that he might be uncooperative. And because he's not a friend of anybody that you want to ever admit having known, really.
She looks like she was about to say something, then she thinks twice, and she says, "Look, I know Beau. I'm sure you knew already that I know him.
Of course.
What is it that you want me to tell you?"
I need to know something more about him. I need leverage over him.
Well, he loves that bookshop. As far as I know, he lives there 24 hours a day. I don't think he's left in, well, I mean, as long as I've known him. It's almost a year.
Does he love the shop for books or for other reasons?
Beau is definitely a book lover. I always wants to talk to people about books. I don't really go in for literature, but if you want to have a conversation with him, talking to him about books is a good way to go. I mean, you must know by now that some of the rebels meet there. There's a meeting room down under a trapdoor, back where the bookshelves are. Most of the time, it's just a regular bookshop, I guess.
And yes, we could certainly take him in just for the kind of company he likes to keep. But as I said, he's not really the one we care about.
Who do you care about, Marissa?
Do I believe that Yelena is afraid of the consequences of double dealing with me?
Yeah, you do.
We're looking for Mr. Gene Wild.
Her eyes widen at that with surprise.
Yes, like I said, no one you'd actually want to know.
You mean Wild's in New York?
He is. And he's been meeting with your friend. Oh.
So she again is clearly surprised by this. I didn't think Beau had connections like that. Listen, if Wild is here, the only thing that any of us need to do is get out of this city because something bad is going to happen. You know who he is.
I do know who he is. And I know something bad is going to happen. But unlike you, I have an obligation to try and prevent it.
Good luck.
So, how do I get under? So, Beau likes books. Anything else? How do I get under his skin? How do I become his friend?
I mean, I don't know. Do you know much about literature? Uh, he he likes money. He likes books. As far as I know, that's his whole life. That shop. The doesn't
Yeah,
seem to care about anything else or anyone else. Never see him. I mean, he doesn't seem to have friends. He has business associates.
mhm. Yes, his business associates of a particular type, of course, are the ones that are involved. But you can consider it a favor that I gave you to the opportunity to take a vacation.
I will. You understand this means I won't be around next time you need some information.
Oh, I dare say I can find you if I really wanted to.
She pales at that. She says, "Yeah, I'm sure you're right. But I hope you won't need to see me ever again."
I hope so too.
And if that's all, then she'll leave. She'll finish her drink and go.
Yeah, if I think I've exhausted her.
So, Nicholas, you've been keeping an eye on the bookshop for what, like most of a day or something like that?
Yeah, I was thinking like afternoon into the evening. What I wanted to do was observe where Bo resided, like tail him to a place of residence. And after that conversation, I'm going to imagine that I just watched the bookshop and
Yeah,
he
so
never emerges.
that's right. You don't see him leave. I guess you could probably, like he'll be sitting at the counter at the front of the shop for most of the day, and you'll just be able to see him there. Um, People come and go from the shop occasionally. Like it's not doing a lot of business. In fact, you conclude pretty quickly that it's a front of some kind, that it's not sustaining itself on book sales.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the people who enter you recognize or think you might recognize as rebels. No big fish. Definitely not wild. Yeah. Are there other things that you're trying to suss out from where you are?
No, I think that's it. So I'll reconvene with the others, and we can talk about my lack of observation.
All right. So you meet up again. What's next? Or should I ask first? Where does this conversation happen? Are you going back to HQ, or are you gonna, like, does Johnny come meet the two of you at the bar?
I gotta feel like we'd have like some sort of safe house or something like that where we'd be
Yeah.
operating out of, so we're not dragging attention back to HQ all
Yeah.
the time.
We've rented a little apartment in the
Yeah.
in the village somewhere.
Sure.
And yeah, we're not trotting back to HQ, and
That makes sense.
So, Marissa, how was your conversation? Did you learn anything?
evidently he really does love books and the bookstore. He doesn't.
Yeah,
leave it.
I was gonna tail him to find out where he resides, but he never emerged, not once. I stayed there
No,
till like 10:30. I don't think he's leaving that establishment.
he's got an apartment above the store, I
Yeah,
think.
that makes sense.
So the only point of leverage that I seem to have is that a threat to the bookstore might be in a way worse than a threat to him.
So, I mean, one option is we could. I have some bureaucratic connections. We could leverage those to potentially shut down the bookstore, get it evicted.
What we want.
It doesn't feel like the quiet approach, though, which is
No.
why I hesitate.
The question is, do we think that we can introduce him to compel him to do what we want under threat and remain right there, perhaps providing one of us with a bona fides for these rebel meetings?
Provide one of us what?
With rebel credentials, as it were.
Oh, yes.
Vouching.
Maria,
If
what
we
are you
can-
thinking about?
If we can frighten him badly enough, it could work. But I don't know. We don't have anything about him in the files, really, other than what we were told.
You want to frighten him?
I want to frighten him productively. I don't want to scare him. I don't want to scare him into running or into acting so out of character that he tips all over the boggles.
If you want to scare him, find me a hardware store and get me alone with him in a room for 5 minutes.
That might work. What if it doesn't?
Marissa, I have yet to find a hardware store that failed to yield what I need to scare the absolute hell out of someone.
Yes, but as I said, if you scare him into fleeing, then we've lost.
Oh, I think I can go in there as treat it like a protection racket. He might run to Wild just to say, "Save me, Daddy." The mean gang on the street wants me to pay them money.
That's not bad. Let's see if we can flush him. Yeah, we'll threaten the store and ask for money. More money than he's got. I can make a pretty good guess at that based upon what Elena was talking about.
You just tell me the number to ask for. I will go in and I will be the face that they see. I mean, I wouldn't be the only former soldier who's turned to this line of work.
No.
Who knows? Maybe my reputation will precede me. Maybe Wild will see a picture and want to come get me himself.
I doubt it. He'll have bigger fish to fry.
Hey, that was a little, you know.
No.
Cold-blooded, Marissa. And I just kind of laugh.
You know what I mean. Wild's not. I doubt Wild cares that much about Jourdan. Right? He's a
He
means to an
probably won't.
end.
But
But
he might care about me.
he might. I hope not. I hope he doesn't know who you are at all. But let's see if we can get Jourdan to do something unwise. without tipping our hand as to who we actually are. We'll do this.
So,
What do
I
you think?
understand.
What do you think, Johnny?
I mean, it's like midnight, 1 o'clock right now. If he's in his apartment upstairs, this is the window we're looking for.
So, is the plan that Marie will head up to his apartment while the two of you what?
I think
Well, an extortion threat's usually delivered in the cold light of day.
It's more effective that way because it lets them know you aren't afraid of them.
So why don't we sleep, get ready, and visit him when he's opening up.
Does that mean all three of you will go in together, or is?
No,
I think this is some. Yeah, I think that
just Marie.
Johnny and Marissa might need to like keep watch or something like that outside, but don't want to tip the hand there.
Sure. So, we established there's a coffee shop that has a view of the bookshop.
yeah.
So,
Let me
Actually-
introduce you to
actually-
the best coffee shop.
Yeah, actually, I think we should keep 2 watches. One in the coffee shop and somebody in a car.
I mean, there's got to be a rear entrance to this building as well. I think one of us should be probably the car around back.
yeah, I think that you had enough time to figure out there's a little alleyway that runs behind the shop.
Yeah, because if he leaves on foot, well, however, if he leaves his bookstore, which we're hoping he'll do, then we need to be able to tail him however he's going.
You know, Johnny, just pull up so that the car's flush against the door because it opens outward. Because that way he'll run to the back and try to get out the back door and it'll be blocked and he'll be trapped. Nobody sees your face, nothing bad happens. Or, you could just, I don't know, drag a dumpster in front of it, something like that.
Marissa, you should take the car in back. I'd like to have a motorcycle parked out at the coffee shop
All right.
so that I can take pursuit if he takes flight.
Okay, but if he leaves on foot, tail him on foot.
All right.
All right. That sounds like a plan. So let's take another break here. We'll come back in about 10 minutes. Sweet. So, Marie, let me just make sure I have this right. So Marissa is in the alleyway behind the bookshop and has pushed something across the back door or parked there so that nobody can run out that way. And Johnny is in the coffee shop close to a motorbike ready to pursue if someone comes out the front. That's right.
I'd like to have done one other thing if it's manageable. Does he have a telephone?
Yeah, there's a phone into the shop.
Okay. It seems to me that it would be profitable in the evening to put a bug on the phone.
So, that's going to be a sneaking test to get in at night without being noticed, and do we have like a technology ability or something? I guess an insurgency test to tap the phone. Would you be going in by yourself, or would one of you be going in by yourself, or?
Yeah. It's just placing a phone tap. It's a very simple thing.
All right. So Marissa, go ahead and make a difficulty 4 sneaking test to get in without being seen or observed.
Yeah, I'm just going to make it.
Okay. And then, yeah, I think just a difficulty 2 insurgency test to tap the phone. Like you say, that's pretty routine.
Okay, also done. I'm not going to take chances at this point.
Cool. So the next morning, it's what, like 9:30, 10 a.m. when Marie heads in? Does that sound right?
Mm-hmm.
Marie, do you want to describe your approach?
I walk across the street, bold as can be, in front of cars. They're slamming on the brakes and honking, and I'm flipping them off. I'm trying to make this a little loud, just to draw some attention.
Mm-hmm.
And I walk into the bookstore. How many patrons are in there right now?
You don't see anyone, but you can hear maybe like there's somebody back in the amongst the shelves somewhere.
I'm going to turn around and lock the door behind me.
So Bo is sitting at the counter in like a, sort of disheveled Hawaiian shirt. He looks up at you and he says, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Guess nobody told you got to pay taxes to operate on this street.
Taxes? The hell are you talking about?
Taxes. The kind that you pay to stay in business so that your business doesn't burn down mysteriously in the middle of the night.
Oh, I see. It's like that.
It is like that. You can
tell me
call
about
it a generous donation to your local neighborhood beautification project, if you wish.
He sort of grumbles. He says, "Well, I do like a beautiful neighborhood. How much are these taxes that we're talking about?"
How much did Johnny and Marissa tell me he had, roughly?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we need to exactly say a figure.
Something that'll make him blanch
I will give
without
him,
being preposterous.
Yeah, I will state a number that if he's taking a drink would make him do a spit take.
Yeah. So you get the sort of drink-free spit take from him. He says, "And how often do you expect me to pay these taxes?" Exactly.
Weekly.
Weekly.
Got to
So
spend
he
money
does-
to make money.
So he does a couple of things. He looks noticeably at a particular spot under the counter, and then he looks back to you. Then he says, "Well, look, gonna have to go see how much cash I have on hand. Do you want to stay here?"
You know, just to make sure that we're dealing with each other fair and square, as you might say, I'm going to come with. Because, I'd hate for you to go to look in a strong box and come back with something like, say, a pistol. That wouldn't be very neighborly now, would it?
Well, I'm sure hoping that both of us will get through this without needing a pistol. But sure, come on back here with me. And he looks like he was about to go and lock the door, and then remembers you've already done that, and then he leads you into the shelves. Shop seems to be, shelves are quite densely packed with old books.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost seems like it's bigger on the inside than it looked from outside. Like it is quite expansive now that you're in here. And you can,
How much bigger on the inside?
Hard to say, like the way that these, bookshelves sort of twist and are crammed in together. You can never see very far. It just seems like you're walking a little bit further than you would have thought was possible.
I don't like that.
So what do you do?
Hurt him.
Do I still see the front of the store at this point?
No, not from where you are now. Unless you stop him before you get out of sight of the counter.
I'm going to say, why don't you come back here for a second?
You want the money or not?
Come here.
All right. Where you want me to go?
How many square feet is this bookstore of yours?
I haven't measured it recently. Why do you ask?
You haven't measured it recently. Haven't measured it recently or at all? I mean, did it change from when you moved in and rented the space?
Little half smile appears on his face, and he says, "I mean, who could say, really? Bookshop changes sometimes. I've had a lot of locations."
Yeah, that's the thing about square footage. It really doesn't. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and get physical with him.
Mhm.
I'm going to pull out a claw hammer from my pocket. And I'm going to
He
step on
rears
his
back.
leg. And I'm going to
Mhm.
say, so why don't you stop messing around with me and tell me why in the hell we are walking farther than the bookstore is long?
So he tries to calm you down. He's got his hands up. He's like, no need for all that.
And I'm going to punch him in the face.
Right. I mean, he bleeds. He reels back. He staggers. Hey.
I mean, he can't reel back too much. I've got my foot on his leg and he's like on the ground. So
Mhm.
it's like, you can answer my question. That's all you have to do. You answer my question. If you answer my questions quickly and concisely and honestly, I won't hit you. That's a hell of a deal. Best deal you're going to get all day.
You're asking me what the question that you're asking me doesn't even make any sense. Do you hear yourself? I thought you were just a businessman, but this is crazy talk.
And at this point, I'm going to grab him by his shirt collar and I'm going to drag him back to where we can see the front of the store.
Mm-hmm. All right. If it's all right, I'd like to come back to this scene in just a minute. So, Johnny, you're enjoying a coffee. When somebody just sits themselves down in the seat right beside you and says, "You like the coffee here, huh?"
It's the best I've had yet in New York. It's great.
Couldn't help getting noticed. You were sitting here all day yesterday. Now you're back here today. Is it really just the coffee that you like?
Who do I see next to me?
See a man like reasonably well dressed, like with a sports coat. He's got one of his hands in the right hand pocket of the sports coat, holding something you can't see. He's a little bit on the, he's square jawed. He looks like his nose has been broken at least once.
I turn to him and I say, well, I'm on vacation for a little while. This is a fine place to relax. Name's Johnny. Who are you?
You don't need to know my name. This coffee shop's off limits to you now. Get out of here. What, I gotta ask you twice?
Sorry, who are you?
You don't need to know who I am.
Are,
And with that, he just knocks your coffee to the ground, shatters the cup. People look around, and he gives them a look that makes them stop looking.
oh, it's the real deal. It's what we're pretending to be. I say, okay, I can take a hint, and I exit the coffee shop, and just kind of hang out 2 buildings to the left, keeping casual observation from a slightly farther distance.
So he'll definitely follow you out of the shop, and if you try and stop a couple of doors away, he'll like, maybe I'm not being clear. Out of this neighborhood, you're not welcome around here. What are you looking at? What do you think you're looking at?
I don't understand why you're chasing me out of this neighborhood. What's going on here?
What? I think he'll just draw his gun at that point.
That makes sense.
So he has, again, one of the needlers, the guns that are quite common in the setting that fire hypodermics. He says, "You going to leave or am I going to shoot you?"
And it's at this point that I would like to clock him in the jaw hard enough that he loses consciousness.
All right. So that will just be... So we won't do a full combat because it's just you, but that'll be a difficulty 3 fighting test.
Okay. I'll put 2 points into that.
All right. So you don't need to roll because you can't fail.
Right.
All right, so you knock him out in the street in front of the bookshop.
Yep. And then drag him around the corner, tuck him next to a garbage can or something.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then you go back to the coffee shop, or what do you do after that?
I do. I go back and order another coffee.
All right, so they'll the staff will be like a little nervous about this. Like, I hope there's not going to be any trouble.
Don't worry. After this coffee, I'll take off. But I just need one more coffee.
Right. I wonder if you do need any more coffee after you just knocked a guy out in the middle of the street.
Probably not.
All right. So, Marie, what's happening back in the bookstore?
Well, how is Bo taking the increased level of physicality?
I mean, he looks scared. He's in a fair bit of fear.
Listen, friend, all you have to do is answer some simple questions and give me some money, and I'll be out of your hair until 7 days from now.
Look, if you got a simple question, then ask it. You're asking me how the bookshop changes size? It doesn't even make sense.
I'm going to punch him again.
Knock it off. What do you want me to tell you?
I want you to tell me why the bookshop's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. It's a simple question. When you know that the bookshop is bigger on the inside than it is on the outside, but instead you keep trying to say things like, "You're crazy." Quite frankly, if I am crazy, you should be more scared. If I'm being sensible and reasonable, well, hell, all you have to do is answer my question. If I'm crazy, I might just keep hitting you no matter what you tell me. You're not going to find out until you get straight with me, though.
So what he'll say is, the book. I mean, why? Why is a hard question to answer? I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to be clear with you. Bookshop moves around. Sometimes it's bigger and sometimes it's smaller. I don't know why. That's just what it is.
So the bookshop moves, like it might be in a different place next week?
The door will always be here. I mean, until they pull this building down. But there's another door that leads somewhere else. Paris, maybe. Egypt. Lots of doors.
God damn it, you're one of those weird fuckers, aren't you? The ones like that were associated with the, the scumbags that they chased out of the palace.
Well, I didn't have nothing to do with the palace.
No, but you're one of those weird fuckers, aren't you?
Anything you say. You want me to get you that money now?
You know what? I want to keep you in sight. You give me what's in the register. And you make sure you have everything I asked for plus next week waiting in the register when I come back.
You think I'm this weird fucker like you say? You're not worried at all about what's going to happen when you come back?
And I'm going to flip the hammer in my hand, catch it, and I'm just going to say, not as worried as you should be if I do come back.
All right. I'll get you the money out of the register. Let's just do this.
You see, isn't it nice to just conduct business in a simple way? Straightforward, no bullshit.
Yeah, that's how I've always liked to do things. So
And I'll actually straighten up his collar for him and, take the handkerchief out of his pocket and kind of dab under his nose to collect the blood and see, look at that. I can be nice. I can be a friend to you. Like if you got somebody bothering you, like somebody just like wandering in here and asking you random questions and demanding money from you, you can call me and I will come help you.
Oh, that's very generous of you. Thank you.
I'm just saying you don't have to worry about somebody else like me showing up if you call me.
Yeah, well, I sure hope I won't have any reason to call you, no offense.
Well, just in case you do. And I'm sure we have a phone number that's been set up so that, it's basically neutral. And I say, you have any trouble, you call this number. You tell them the bookstore name, and you tell them you need Mayhem. That's my name, Mayhem.
It's a clever name. I see why.
Yeah, well, they don't have a whole lot of use for ex-soldiers now that stuff is, So we got to make our own way in the world, right?
Yeah, that's right.
See, I make my way by helping people, by protecting people who can't protect themselves, people like you. So, we made a deal today. You gave me some money, I'm giving you protection. You have a problem, you call me. Remember, my name's Mayhem.
I got it.
And I'll take the money that he offers me and I'll look at it and I'll just stuff it in my pocket without counting. And I'll walk out the door, flipping the hammer in my hand.
All right.
That's where Johnny's going to signal you across the street and tell you, there's actually some people doing some sort of protection services around here. I subdued one of them.
Good work, John.
Come over here.
Didn't know you had it in you. Oh, yeah. Do I get to ask him some questions?
I think he could be waking up soon, and it would be good to see what's going on with this one.
Bring a pitcher of ice water. We'll wake
I head back into the coffee shop, grab a pitcher.
The staff again look nervously at you, but probably won't interfere at this point. And I assume you have some sort of you have some sort of radio or something, some way that you can call Marissa and if you want to ask her to join you.
Yeah, I'm just gonna wait until we get into the alley, and then I'll pull it out and just update Marissa on what happened, and also the try to explain what the bookseller told me about the shifting size of the bookstore and the shifting location and how the door leads to the bookstore no matter where it is, but it's not always where it is. Because that's the sort of thing that makes sense on the radio.
This muscle that you're talking about, disappear him.
How permanently?
He can't talk to anybody, so he's either got to be put in lockdown somewhere, or he's gonna have to be gotten rid of.
Can we actually call some number and have him pick somebody up and have him throw him in the tank, something like that?
I mean, you could call the regular police. You probably have some contacts there.
Yeah, but I'm talking about our organization because we deal with weirder stuff.
Yeah, I think that's just your job. Like, you're the ones who get called.
Great. All right, I'll figure something out.
If you want, you can put him in the trunk, and I'll drop him off.
That's a good idea.
So, when we get to the alley, I say, Johnny, since this guy harassed you, would you care to do the honors of waking him up with that nice pitcher of ice water into his face?
With pleasure. Splash.
So he sputters.
Before we wake him up, we obviously disarm him, right? He doesn't get to keep that taser gun. Yeah,
I assumed you would. So he sputters. He does reach almost immediately for the spot where you took his gun. And then he kind of sizes up the situation, just nods and says, all right.
I want to stress that I have my hammer in my right hand.
Mm-hmm. And I have his gun in my left hand, aiming it at him. So who are you?
He says, all right. My name's Matt. I work for Dennis Barbeau. You might have heard of him. Name probably doesn't register for you. He looks and he sees that you're blank. He says he's a director. He makes movies.
And
So
why do you care that I'm in that coffee shop?
Look, I'm not an idiot. You're not enjoying the coffee. You're watching the bookshop. You're supposed to keep an eye on the bookshop. Make sure that nobody else is causing any trouble for the guy who works there.
You're supposed to keep an eye on that bookshop?
Yeah.
And why is that?
I mean, I don't think I'm telling either of you anything that you don't already know, but that bookshop is a meeting place for well,
So why is this Denny Berber interested in it? And I'm
Dennis
intentionally mispronouncing the name.
yeah. So he corrects you. Dennis Barbeau. Dennis Barbeau is he looks like he was about to say something like complimentary about the Castaigne regime, and he realizes like whose side you're on, and he sort of suppresses it. He says, look, Dennis Barbeau has some political views that you might not agree with, and he supports people who share those views.
Huh. So, why do you care if I'm walking into that bookstore and offering some help to the owner?
Sorry, I think Nicholas is frozen.
Oh, am I?
Nicholas, I can hear you, but your image is completely frozen. As long as you can hear me, that's and we
I can hear, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I like that. Am I?
It was quite
This
ominous.
struck me
Wasn't it?
funny. It's like I think that's a statue. No, I'm not. Says the statue.
Yeah.
So he says, I don't know what you were doing. This guy was sitting in that coffee shop all day. Bo called for some help, and I'm here to help.
You know, Matt, I gotta say, and Johnny, you know I don't mean any offense by this. You know I love you. But if Johnny here can knock you out, you are not fit to handle any kind of trouble that might visit that bookstore. For example, me, which is why I am protecting that bookstore now. Because you got knocked out by Johnny. And Johnny, I love you, but God, I've seen how you punch. It's a wonder you don't break your thumb, because I keep telling you, you have to tuck your thumb on the outside. You don't tuck it inside your fingers. So, Matt, let me tell you how this is going to go. Okay? It can go one of two ways. It can go the easy way, which is we keep your gun, you get up, you dust yourself off, you go back to Danny Boo or whatever the fuck his name is, and you tell him his friend is taken care of and he's under the protection of Mayhem. I even gave him a number and everything. If any trouble happens, he can call me. I'll come running. And Matt, you might have figured out by now that I'm somebody who's used to dealing with some really particular kinds of trouble. I'm the kind of person who doesn't need a needler. You give me a hammer, or really just about anything, and I can deal with most situations. Hell, you can give me a cup of coffee, I can solve problems. And you don't want to find out how. It's not pretty. So that's the easy way. Now, the hard way is you decide you want to give us some trouble. You decide you want to object to the easy way. And that's when you find out what I can do with the hammer. And then we will send you back to your boss, probably in a wheelchair. And you can explain to him with a mouth of broken teeth how you fucked up. So which way is it going to be?
Easy way sounds good to me.
I thought it might. You know what?
He starts to
Just
pull himself up from the ground,
just
or
so
at
there's
least
no hard
experimentally.
feelings. Just so there's no hard feelings. And I'll pull a card out of my coat. Say, here's my name and number. If your boss needs some help, let him know that he's got what do you call it? An off the books asset? Somebody who's not really connected to him, won't point the finger back at him. Somebody who can help him out in certain situations. Not trying to take your job, just I'm sort of a specialist in these things, if you know what I mean.
He reaches out to take the card. He says he'll do that.
And I'll help him up and I'll straighten his coat for him and dust off his shoulders a little bit. Say, almost good as new. Put an ice pack on that. It'll help.
All right. And maybe we'll wrap the scene there.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
Yeah, sounds good.
He hobbles away.
You did good work, Johnny. Good work.
It's not really necessary, though. I mean, I don't put my thumb inside of my.
Johnny, listen. The worse you can make somebody feel about themselves in a situation like that, the better off it usually goes in terms of making them resent you and want to send people after you.
I played the fool last time. Can't I play the tough guy next time?
And I just look at you with this expression on my face, almost like I'm saying with my eyes, God, you're like an adorable little golden retriever that gets excited when people get home from work.
All right, you get the tough guy next time.
Look, I don't tell you how to do code breaking. Most of you don't have the slightest idea how to do any kind of code breaking. But, we all have our roles. We all have our strengths.
I think that's the end of the scene.
All right.
Yeah.
So you meet up, I assume, back at your safe house. And Marissa, tell me if this is what you were thinking, but I imagine that you've had the phone tap set up to record any calls that were made to the bookshop while you're out.
Correct.
Yeah. So there's only one call that's been made that you can listen back to. From the timestamp, it was made about 10 minutes after Mayhem left the shop. It's an outgoing call. You get the number that was called. You hear Bo say, "I need to talk to Mr. Wild." A very deep voice on the other end of the phone says, "You can't do that." Bo replies, "I talked to him. He says that I should call Mr. Wild." And the voice replies, there's a long pause, and then, "All right, Mr. Wild, we'll see you soon." And that's the end of the call.
When I get this intercept, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go place a call from a payphone to one of our resources to get a address for that phone number.
Mm-hmm. So you get an address for it. You get a physical location for it, but they also tell you that that's an empty shop front. There's no business or residence registered at that address.
So it's just a message drop, as it were.
Maybe.
Okay.
Marissa, how is it possible that he spoke with him, quote unquote? I mean, That was within 10 minutes. We were still in the alley at that time. No one had gone in or out. Who's this him?
We don't know. But it probably has something to do with the mysterious other door. And I don't really care to know the details.
The less we know, the better, honestly.
Him, whoever that is not our target. It's Wild. Keep that in mind. Let's keep focus.
Yeah.
So he's going to he did what we wanted him to do. Which is that he has arranged to talk with Wild, which either means that Wild is going to come to the office here or he's going to leave. And we have to be ready for both of those.
Marissa, we also learned that there's, what do you call them, fellow travelers in the city?
Oh, they have regular meetings at the bookstore.
Yeah, but we got this film director who's basically sending in protection for this guy.
Not surprised.
You want we should do anything about him? Is he just like a nice fish if we can catch him, or?
I don't care about him at all.
All right.
He's not a threat. We know that there are rebels. We know that they meet here at the bookstore. They probably have a number of influential friends. There's a lot of sympathizers. They'll get what's coming to them, but not now.
So if a grenade were to mysteriously roll into the bookstore when they were having one of their meetings and you didn't know about it, you wouldn't care? Is that what I'm hearing?
I'd care about anything that might jeopardize this mission.
Oh, I mean, of
very
course.
much. Very much.
After the mission. After
the mission, we can call a sting on the bookstore and have everybody arrested and interrogated. Probably more effective than just blowing them up.
But it's not as much fun.
You know how much these people hurt me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that we might finish up here for today. So next time we'll have you surveilling the bookshop, waiting for some sort of contact with Mr. Wild. I am just going to end the recording here, and then we'll do a quick round of stars and wishes if people have time for that.